Welcome everyone back to the Augur Podcast. Today we will be talking about Back to the Future. But firstly, allow me to introduce my guests. To my right we have Farah, Lydia, Taleb. I am Sebastian Gil here, and to my left we have Kelly Brown Fernandez. Now please do allow me to begin with a plot summary. Firstly, let's talk about how in the movie it all starts with Marty just having returned from the past, when he is once more picked up by Dr. Emmett Brown, now in a flying DeLorean. Both of them must travel to the future to save Marty's kids from wrongly being imprisoned. Unfortunately, their actions in the future allow Marty's enemy, Beth, to travel by stealing the DeLorean and changing the present, turning the town of Hill Valley into a polluted, gang-run hellscape, leading both Marty and Doc to once again have to travel to the past to stop Beef from altering the present. Now, some of the main themes present in the movie are the theme of family, ambition, free will, and of course, the two most important ones being morality and time travel and its paradoxes itself. Now, allow me to open our podcast with the question of, if time travel is factually possible, is it morally acceptable to change the past? What do you think?
So, I think idealistically, if we're able to stop something bad from happening, we should take that opportunity. We would be able to save a number of lives and perhaps stop tragedies from happening to better the current world. But
Well, I'll have to disagree on you with that because the way I see it, I don't think there's any proof that going back in time and changing an event, such as the example that is usually giving, like killing baby Hitler to stop the Holocaust or World War II. So there's no proof that by going back and changing a factor like that will actually 100% change the event or stop it from happening. And also, we need to ask ourselves, by doing this, what if it leads to something much worse? After all, these events create conscience,
Yeah, I guess I do agree with you on some respect, but do you think that we have a duty to stop bad things from happening as society or as a human race?
I don't think. I do think we have a duty to stop it when we see it that it's about to happen, but I don't think we have a duty to go. If we could go back in time and stop it from happening, what's done is done, and also, who are we to justify who gets to live, who gets to die, even if it is, baby Hitler, and we have a knowledge of atrocities he will commit. That's not up to us. And, I also believe that our Western perspectives would entail us going back to change what we consider tragedies, in our Western eyes. But that doesn't necessarily help the whole world.
That's quite interesting, Kelly, now that you bring that, because it is true. It's the idea kind of that God complex. Whoever has this ability to go back to the future or back to the past, who gets to choose not only who lives, who dies, but what specific events do we get to change? And would it be a committee? Would it be an individual? Would we have to talk all together in the United Nations about what would truly better the world? It has too many variables that are too hard to control. And furthermore, what stops someone if they can actually go and change the past to better the world? What stops someone for willingly or unwillingly going back to the past and actually committing an atrocity?
Mm-hmm.
Sure, someone with bad intentions could go back and actually try to eradicate a race or do something similar, or someone with good intentions could go back, try to change the past for better, but actually lead us down a darker timeline, per se. Also, who would protect this technology? Who would stop those bad people or those to using it? Would it be a government? Can we trust the government with the technology? All governments are imperfect. They have all committed, maybe not necessarily atrocities, but there have been failures by them, be it letting the people starve or their involvement in wars. So it becomes really tricky to be able to justify it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I agree with you. Despite the fact that, we're not a perfect race and bad things have happened, we've used those to learn from, and we've developed things like the European Convention of Human Rights or the United Nations to stop these things from happening, or at least decrease them a bit. And technically, I feel that if we were to have this technology, it would be heavily guarded. But it's also, like Kelly said, like who's to say who lives and who dies, and who's to say what we change and what we don't, considering it is just from our perspective and not like a whole world view of what was bad. And like we do use these endeavors. I mean, we use these atrocities to fuel endeavors into making the world a better place, into making the future brighter for like future generations.
Yeah, adding on to that, like I totally agree with you. I mean, that's one of the reasons, like if you go back in time and change, like these events, like yes, they're awful. They happen, and honestly, and most times people die or awful things happen. But it helps create conscience so that we don't repeat it again. And if you go back in time and completely erase this event, if it does go well and you do erase it and nothing happens, like there's no backlash, then you just basically erase that event from history, which means that, you know, it could still happen again because it's not in our memories.
I think, based on everything we said, I think we can all reach a conclusion that, well, theoretically, time travel under multiple physical models is possible. I think we can all agree that the dangers are too big and that we shouldn't actually time travel. I mean, we could go into a whole discussion about whether it is or we will ever have the technology, but that's something else. But I mean, despite the idea that we could do some good, there are indeed too many dangers and too many factors. For example, us humans, we have proven to be selfish, and while it's very much true that we strive to do better as we learn from our mistakes, we are still committing mistakes, and that proved very dangerous. Also, let's take in mind the idea that absolute power corrupts absolutely, and this time travel could be seen as absolute power in a way, because you can change history in your favor. Finally, this is even referenced in the movie. We can see Doc Brown talks to Martin multiple times, reference the dangers of time travel, the possible implications of a time paradox. We see the dangers actively portrayed in the movie once Beth goes back, changes the past, alters the present to be horrible, a horrible version of Hilltop. Of course, this could be down to we have our titular characters, which have to be a hero. It is a movie after all. But in the end, in the series of movies themselves, or Back to the Future, they do take a step to destroy the DeLorean because they find that it is indeed too dangerous of a technology.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that if it is a possibility, we should be careful of whose hands it falls into.
Yes, I agree.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for watching episode 2 of the Augur Podcast, Back to the Future.